Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Moses, and in this video, I want to talk about my experience living in LA for the past 6 months. My move to LA was really driven by my change in jobs. I do discuss that in the video that I'll post somewhere up here. Like so many others that have moved to LA, I came to Los Angeles with the idea of opportunity and fulfilling dreams and seeking any type of opportunity for success. And with that, I also pictured sunny weather, beautiful beaches, the whole glamorous LA lifestyle. But now that I've been here for about half a year, let me tell you, it's been a ride. So far, I've experienced the highs, the lows, and really everything in between. So in today's video, I want to share what it's really like to live in LA. I'll take you through my personal experiences, share some advice if you're thinking about making the move, and finally break down whether LA might be the right choice for you. So if you've ever been curious about living in the City of Angels, maybe you're weighing your options of making the big move, you're in the right place. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. When I moved to LA, I had this big vision of what my life will be like. Going to the beaches, doing hiking adventures, rooftop parties, hangouts with friends, you know, the whole LA vibe. I mean, with the beautiful weather out here, I thought, how can you not do those things as much as possible? And don't get me wrong, the weather out here is great and there's always freedom to kind of go out and do things without having the restrictions of poor weather or poor air conditions. But here's the thing, making plans in LA, it's a challenge. Let me explain. One day I was planning dinner with my sister near the Grove, and I left work around 5 p.m. and I was trying to make it to the Grove in time for dinner with my sister. Now, the drive was about 6 miles, but it took me well over 1 hour to reach the mall. And by the time I got there, I was just so like exhausted and kind of irritated by the traffic that I felt like I couldn't really enjoy the dinner nor like spending time with my sister because I just was so consumed with how tired I was from the drive. And I feel like that was the first glimpse of how LA traffic can really affect my mood and how it can kind of like ruin my day in a way. And so I just learned that that's just the reality of LA traffic. It can really make or break your evening depending on how bad it is and how like late or rushed you feel. And honestly, you know, even though LA is really big, it can really feel lonely. There's just so many people here and it just feels like no matter how many people you encounter or you come across, it feels like nobody's really making any true deep connections out here. Everyone is just kind of hustle bustle, you know, go with the flow, and nobody really kind of takes time to like get to know you or really try to like engage with you. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to make friends out here, but what I will say is that it takes a lot more time and effort to really make connections with your family and friends out here. And I think that I've experienced that so far while living here. And with all that being said, I do feel like after like a long week of work, it takes a lot of effort to kind of muster up the energy to want to do more things during the weekend. I feel like ever since moving to LA, I've tried to enjoy my weekends in the sense of just staying home and like, you know, rest and rejuvenation rather than like going out for even more adventures. And the irony for me is that that's just not something I thought I'd be doing here. I really thought that I'd be wanting to go out and explore the city as much as I can. But in reality, it just doesn't work out that way. When I get home, I'm just really tired, and I like now look forward to the weekends to just be a time to like sleep in, do laundry, do the chores, and just kind of stay low-key at home. So while LA definitely has the potential for a thriving social life, logistically speaking, it's a lot harder than I expected, and it does take a lot more planning and just like mental preparation for those social hangouts. All right, let's talk about money, because let's be real, LA can be really expensive. And when I say expensive, it's not really in the sense of what you might think. I mean, honestly, I did expect that the rent here would be very high, just the general cost of living would be really high. But what really caught me off guard was the extra expenses that were tackled on top of what was already the base expense. For example, take my apartment. Parking is not included with the rent cost. As a matter of fact, there's no guarantee of having a parking spot per se. What I mean by this is the parking cost itself is not included with the rent. So essentially, I have to pay an extra $100 per month per car that I want parked. Plus, on top of that extra expense, utilities are also not included with the rent. So the electric and the water is not an expense that I pay directly to my landlord. It's actually something that I pay directly to the city. And this was kind of like a shock to me because it was separate accounts that I had to make just to pay for the electric and the water. And that's something that I just didn't really expect. So it was just like an extra account to have to manage. Not to mention that the rates of the electric and the water can fluctuate based on the city's budget that they set and their needs. So it's not always consistent cost. And so when you take all these separate transactions added up, the price can kind of increase over time without you really knowing. And if you think that having to pay extra for parking at your own apartment is bad, the parking everywhere else is just as bad. You simply can't expect to go run errands or grab lunch with a friend without paying for parking. One time I went to the mall to see a movie, and overall the parking stay was about 3 hours, and that 3 hours alone was already $20. The irony was that it was supposed to be kind of like a free outing because I do have a monthly pass to AMC, but when you tackle on the parking, you're still spending money no matter what. So that was kind of like a culture shock for me. And just overall, I feel like expenses out here in LA are just a lot higher than in other areas that I've lived in. For example, I went to a local bagel shop on a Saturday morning with my girlfriend, and we ordered 3 bagels with 2 coffees. And you know, typically in other cities that I've lived in with these types of like mom and pop shops, I was expecting about maybe $25, $30 for 3 bagels and 2 coffees. But no, in Los Angeles, that total came out to over $80 for bagels and coffee. So yeah, I mean, you might make more money when you work in LA, but there's definitely a reason for that because you are spending a lot more than average when you do things in LA. Now, I did mention early in the video about how traffic really has an effect on your overall day-to-day here in LA, but I wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit more about how that can affect the quality of life, or at least how I feel like it's affected my quality of life. Now, we all know that the traffic in LA is bad, and a lot of times it can feel like a nightmare. But here's what really surprised me about the traffic in LA. The bad part about the traffic is not necessarily the gridlock nature of the traffic. Rather, it's the way that people drive that essentially causes the traffic. See, from my experience, drivers in LA kind of fall into 2 different categories. The really slow and attentive drivers and the very aggressive, always in a rush, get out of my way type of drivers. There's really no in between. Like when driving in the freeway, you'll see that one driver that just sticks out like a sore thumb, and they're just maneuvering in and out of lanes, going much faster than the normal speed of traffic. But then you'll also have drivers that are in the fast lane going 5 to 10 miles below the speed limit. It really is that drastic of a difference in drivers. And I really think that that overall is what causes the traffic in LA. It's not necessarily just the large volume of drivers, but it's really the difference in driving styles that causes a mismatch of flow when it comes to the flow of traffic. And for this reason, simple errands that you might think will take only about an hour on a Saturday can turn into 2 or 3 hours because of the amount of traffic and just the variation of driving styles here in LA. And that was just something that I wasn't really expecting when I first moved here. So if you're someone who appreciates calmness and efficient errands that take about maybe 20 minutes to run, the traffic in LA might make you reconsider moving here. It's definitely something that you might want to think about before the idea of moving out to Los Angeles. But hey, for all the headaches that traffic produces and introduces into your life, there is a silver lining. At least now you have time to listen to that long podcast that you've been holding off on, or making that long phone call to a friend or family member that you wanted to talk to for a while. Or maybe, just maybe, it can help you practice being patient. At least it did for me. You know, there's pros and cons to the long times that it takes to get through the traffic. It just depends on how you view it. So that's my take on LA traffic. Let me know in the comments if you've experienced it firsthand, and if you have some advice to provide for others that have frustrations about traffic in LA. Living in LA hasn't just taught me about what it means to survive in a big city. It's actually taught me a lot about myself that I never really expected to learn. These are lessons that have really helped me approach life here and how to really make the best of it. To close off this video, I want to share 3 things that I've learned since moving in LA. The first lesson is patience. What I mean by that is with regards to traffic, for example, the city forces you to kind of slow down in ways that you didn't really think you have to. The city makes you really plan ahead and plan out your day rather than just joyriding through life. It makes you really plan out your trips and your events with intention. And I actually kind of am appreciating that now that I live in LA. I plan things to do out here with the intention to really enjoy it, to really appreciate it, knowing how hard it is to actually kind of get things done out here in general. Overall, it's about expecting the unexpected and just learning to be okay with that and to just be cool, calm, collected, and just kind of go with the flow of life. And I know that this sounds simple and cheesy, but living in LA has taught me that patience isn't just about waiting for things to happen, but it's also about staying calm in the chaos of life. And let me tell you, that mindset has helped me tremendously with my day-to-day here, whether it's with relationships, my work habits, just everything that you can imagine. The second lesson is resilience. Living in a big city like LA can be discouraging at times. You hear about a bunch of crazy things going on, crimes here and there, robberies, break-ins, violent crime. When you hear about these things often throughout your day, it can really feel heavy and it can kind of take a toll on your mental health and just your sense of safety. Just last week, I was driving to work and I see a car parked on the curb with the window busted in. And I kind of had like a post-traumatic kind of response. I have experienced car break-ins in the past, and just seeing that in public, it just kind of triggered me in a way. But here's the thing, it's easy to let fear take over, at that time of witnessing something like that. But instead of letting that fear overcome me and weaken me, but I've learned to just stay vigilant and prepared to prevent certain crimes like that happening to me. So instead of letting that stress overwhelm me, resilience has taught me to stay calm, stay aware, and take action without letting fear dictate how I approach it. Because at the end of the day, it's all about bouncing back when life hits you in unexpected ways. And the third and final lesson is balance. It's so easy to just get caught up in the hustle of living in LA. There's always something to do, always something to strive for, always something to experience. But I've learned that it's also really important to just sometimes take a step back and take a breather. And what I mean by that is to leave the city and go visit other cities outside of LA. I make a point now to try to go visit Orange County or go visit my family during weekends to kind of get a mental break and like a little mini vacation away from LA. And taking a step back doesn't necessarily mean leaving LA. It could also just mean staying home and cooking a meal or doing some kind of activity that just really takes your mind off of all of the chaos that you've experienced throughout the week. And it's really these little moments that help me stay calm and just stay grounded whenever I feel like I'm at my capacity of hustle bustle of LA. The challenges that I've experienced here in LA are real, but I've also realized that it's important to strike a balance between what I allow to affect me and what I can do to recenter myself. So yeah, living in LA has taught me some pretty important life lessons: patience, resilience, and balance, which honestly I think that we could all use a little more of no matter where we live, whether it's a small town or a big city. So if you find yourself struggling with any of these things, just know that you're not alone. For those who have experience living in a big city like LA, what are some unexpected lessons that you took from it? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love for you to share for the community as well. So overall, I have to say Los Angeles is a fascinating city to live in. There's so much going on here, there's so much to do here, from the diverse neighborhoods, the cultural experiences, and the incredible food. It really is a cultural melting pot here in LA. So do I think moving to LA is right for you? Well, if you're the kind of person that likes a city that's always moving, always buzzing, always having something to do, if you like to pack your weeks back to back with events and social activities, then yes, I think LA is a great place for you to move to. I think you'll find what you're looking for in that aspect. But for me personally, I come to realize that that's not really what I'm looking for in the city that I live in. With all of these entertainment events and activities that are at our fingertips, I really thought that I'd really dive into that and I would want to really enjoy that. But honestly, I don't think it's for everyone. For someone like me who enjoys slow, quiet, and let's just face it, boring environments, LA is definitely the culture shock that I did not expect. For me personally, I feel like I need that peace and sense of space when I come home from work, and I just find it kind of hard to really truly achieve that when living in LA. At the end of the day, there really is just no escaping the energy of LA. It's just always on. So to wrap things up, LA might not be my forever home, but it's definitely been an experience that I do appreciate and I will cherish as an overall life lesson. But while I am living here, I do plan to embrace the small wins. When I'm feeling overwhelmed by the rush of LA, what I will do is remember to slow down when I can. So that's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying this journey with me, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the bell for updates on when I post a new video. Leave a comment down below if you've lived in LA or any other big city. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.